So we sampled this band. Oh, it'll be all right. Oh,
Yeah.
two of them are lawyers now.
Oh
Shit.
shit. Yeah. Hey, everybody out there, welcome back to another episode of the Audiophiles. I'm Andy, and the man over there is John, and we get together and we exchange songs and thoughts thereof. So today, John is up to bat. He's going to be offering me a song that I will go off and give a listen to. John, what do we have in store for everybody today?
Band is called Cymande.
Cymande. Okay. No familiarity there.
Cool. This will be a real treat then.
Yeah.
And the song is called Pon De Dungle.
Pon De Dungle. Okay. All right. Yeah, flying blind on this one, my friend, as you probably expected. So I will go off and give it a listen and let you and everyone else know my thoughts. But yeah.
Lord loveth the gates of Zion more than the dwelling of Jacob. Lord loveth the gates of Zion more than the dwelling of Jacob. Lord loveth the gates of Zion more than the dwelling of Jacob. Lord loveth the gates of Zion more than the dwelling of Jacob.
All right, it sounds like they're about to shift into something there, but I can tell you right out of the gate, from the moment that tambourine struck, that I knew I was going to love the percussions in this song, and then they just grew and grew, and yeah, they're really sinking their teeth into me, which is oftentimes the case when you're listening to something like reggae or calypso music, so rhythmically driven, so rhythmically forward, that it's hard to really ignore that, right? And it's such an engaging sound, as is this kind of like group chant. Like whenever you hear a group of people doing anything, especially in that's something so positive, like creating this kind of music, it makes you want to be part of it, and at least that's how I absorb it. And I've already like want to be here wherever this is. I want to be. And so yeah, excellent start. I'm really loving it. It almost has this like festive quality about it, or like some sort of cultural ceremony or occurrence is like unfolding, and that this is an integral part of the revelry therein. So yeah, I want to experience that again.
Lord loveth the gates of Zion more than the dwelling of Jacob. Lord loveth the gates of Zion more than the dwelling of Jacob. Lord loveth the gates of Zion more than the dwelling of Jacob. Lord loveth the gates of Zion more than the dwelling of Jacob. This day,
Ooh, bass, hello.
man got his foundation, brings truth to the nation. Same vein should respect different colors in life. We all have our reasons that change like the seasons. Winter goes, leaving spring, many flowers. Look down at pain that is growing, the hatred that is showing. Knowing love gets weaker by the hour. Secrets of life, I man bring. Blessings of love, I man give. Bringing you truth while man live. For you like ghosts, I want you.
All right, another observation and another facet of this song that makes it so engaging. Actually, too, that bass work, fabulous. And again, I mentioned the rhythm sections in music such as this, and that bass, if that doesn't like tickle your fancy and make you kind of want to move, I don't know what will. And that we talked about the group chanting earlier and wanting to be involved in that. There's also that same role can be applied to call and response, whether it's vocals like it is in this case, or like you often hear in jazz with instruments calling and responding to one another. There's something about that mechanism that really is, again, engaging and pulls you in and makes you want to be a part of that. Couple all of this, all of these like agents of engagement that I'm underscored. It's just it the overall sound of this also just makes you want to be like I'm lamenting the fact that I'm drinking a hot coffee right now, and not something with an umbrella in it as indigo waves lap upon white sands. Yeah, that's where I want to be when I'm listening to this. And I'm loving the sound. It's kind of like peaceful and tranquil and harmonious in that, again, you want to be among the folks who are playing this and listening to it and celebrating it.
To know. Lord, love at the gates of Zion more than the dwelling of Jacob. Lord, love at the gates of Zion more
Is that a
than the
kabasa?
dwelling of Jacob. Lord, love at the gates of Zion more than the dwelling of Jacob. Lord, love at the gates of Zion more than the dwelling of Jacob. So strong,
It's fun. Just fun.
that passion within man that says we can go on. When all that we felt, we know, lies before us. Man can have what he believes in, is all he's defending. No flaw, not seeing where it leads him. Look down at pain that is growing, the hatred that is showing. Knowing love gets weaker by the hour. Secrets of light, I man bring. Blessings of love, I man give. Bringing you truth while man live. Before your life goes, I want you to know. Lord, love at the gates of Zion more than the dwelling of Jacob. Lord, love at the gates of Zion more than the dwelling of Jacob. Lord, love at the gates of Zion more than the dwelling of Jacob. Lord, love at the gates of Zion more than the dwelling of Jacob.
Wow. That was over a lot faster than I would have wanted. I guess that's one tick against this song, but that's the only one. Yeah, this song, I don't know. For me, this sort of transcends culture, right? Like I'm to no surprise to anyone in the listening audience. I'm a middle-aged white guy from the United States, and this still like, even though I'm not of this, it makes me want to engage with it or witness it or learn more about it, um, because of how welcoming it sounds and how kind of universal it is. It's warming to listen to this kind of listen to this kind of music, and I think it would be even better to. And I very much enjoyed this experience, as you can probably tell, but to be able to witness this kind of music live and to see it play out and to see folks celebrate and revel in it and come together because of it would really be something to behold. And I'd love to experience something like that. The lyrical content I thought was kind of interesting from what I could catch. There were these allusions to Zion and Jacob. So you've got sort of this, you know, religious Rastafarian type kind of allusions going on. There's also references to peace and love and man but also hatred and pain. And I'm wondering if it's not playing on like the capability of man, or on what side of like whether negative or positive, what side one could fall on, and perhaps to you know through music like this, you can find yourself erring more on that peaceful, tranquil side. I'm not really sure. That's just what I caught on my one listen. I enjoyed this very much. It was very peaceful, an excellent weekend song. Again, my aside from its brevity, the only thing I lament is that I'm not, ankle deep in white sands with a beautiful ocean and a cold drink. But I'll settle for a further discussion of this song with John at the very least. So let's get back to him.
Nano Muscuri, he's back. So, what did you make of Cymande?
Oh, what did I make of it? Shoo. I'm surprised I didn't come back here a couple shades darker from the tan out there on the beach in the sunlight. This definitely was such a lovely song for this time of year, and just, what I wasn't expecting then to listen to it. And it sounded so relaxing and almost like you're on holiday.
Bit different,
Yeah. No, I loved it. And you've thrown me a couple of these in the past where there's this heavy dose of reggae or calypso music or something like that, this island feel, this beach feel. So thank you, because this was a nice surprise, and some amount of tranquility that went along with giving this thing a listen. And it starts off, and like the first strike of that tambourine and the percussions that start the song off are they're infectious, fun, upbeat. It was the first glimpse of bright sunlight through the clouds, and I loved it. And then we're introduced to this like layered, almost group chant style vocal delivery. And when coupled with those percussions, it feels like you are part of some celebratory ceremony or a festival. It feels like you're witnessing a cultural experience of both jubilation and some degree of importance. And that's such a treat, especially I'm sure for anyone who listens to it, or most who do, but especially if you're not of that culture, because there's this like learning moment, or this revelation of like what else there is out there, you know what I mean? And I was instantly drawn to it. We get a brief pause at the 24-second mark before the song shifts slightly, and while the percussions maintain that forward presence, the vocal style changes a bit. And though they maintain this multi-voice motif that we saw in the intro, it's less of this like chanting and more of just closer to melodic singing, I would say. Not to say that the chanting didn't have a musical or melodic quality to it, but there is a bit of a difference between the two. Examples of the vocals to this point in the song. And as the song progresses, I'm definitely like catching this very engaging, again, and that's going to be the word du jour with this video, reggae calypso bass work. And it sounds so playful and fun. And it's at this point that I wish I was sipping my coffee during this, and all I could think of was like, God damn, why aren't you in a transparent glass some amazing hue of yellow or blue with an umbrella sticking out of you? And instead of bases and posters behind me, it's indigo waters lapping against white sands. That's what I wanted. And that's where this kind of music takes you. It was just so lovely. And like I said earlier, tranquil. There are also parts during the song where there's like this call and response style of vocals that are employed.
Yeah.
And whether vocally like we have here, or between instruments like we have in like countless examples, especially in jazz music where that really is prevalent, there's something about call and response that is just it's such a tried and true like agent of engagement. And there are other ones here as well, the bass and the drum, all these percussive instruments that I mentioned, but here they throw another one at you, and there is something so I don't know, primordial about the instinct to join in when you hear either something like group vocals that we heard earlier in the song, or this call and response where there is a group dynamic or a multi-party dynamic happening in the music. You want to be a part of that. You want to be on one side of that party chanting and calling and responding. So again, it's like really immersive and interactive in the way all these little techniques that they employ throughout this song that makes the song such a fun listen. The song is sadly over too soon, which is probably my only gripe about the song. I suppose my second would be that you didn't introduce me to this band while we were on vacation walking up to the stage where I could have experienced all this stuff in person, because this kind of music and various other kinds, I mean, let's be honest, live music is amazing, wonderful. Again, there's that communal sort of feeling when you're listening to live music and witnessing performances. But this is like on a whole nother level. And when you're like, a middle-aged white guy from America, and this is a bit foreign to you, but in the most attractive way, because it reminds you of the things that you wish you had more of in your own culture. It engages you and piques your curiosity, and that's the experience that I had throughout this entire listen. I will say that there were like elements that I caught that sounded, from a lyrical standpoint, that sounded like religious revelry with references to guarding love at the gates of Zion, I think, and also some allusions to Jacob. So very much I'm thinking Rastafarian, or like this sort of Caribbean Christian kind of take on things. So there is some religion there as well, but there's also references to things that transcend religion, I would think, which life, love, truth. Not to say that they aren't facets of most faiths, but they like I said, they go beyond faith, I would think. But there's also allusions to like hatred, pain, and weakness, or at least the word weak was used, I think, or I caught it. And maybe this is sort of like the duplicity of man. Like you can err on either one of these sides. You're inclined to feel and experience both of these separate kind of things, but how do you reach the positive one and avoid the negative one is kind of what I felt was the gist of the song, which, again, not to paint a broad brush, but a lot of this kind of music, if it's not about social change, which is wildly important, it's also about this other thing that's wildly important, especially to those who pen this music and live this culture and live this life, which is their take on their own religion. And what it's capable of and the power therein. So yeah, I thought it was a beautiful message, right? In all likelihood, if my inference is correct, as well as like, I think an unassailable, like just delightful sound to the music that you can't really deny the engagement that these sounds provide. So yeah, this was a nice change of pace and an excellent song. I really enjoyed it. Again, my only gripe, it was like 3.5 minutes or something like that. And if the shit had been 4:45 or something like that, it probably would have hit a sweet spot for me with a little bit more instrumental parts or something. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. And it was a great shout, John. Oh,
Cool.
and also, John, it's something else that I wanted to mention. As I talked about these percussions and the tambourine a little bit, there also seemed to be the use of like a kabasa or a shaker of some kind that was adding this like very frictious sound to the whole thing. And that was like an earworm in and of itself as well. So again, just further underscoring how, to me, wildly important the rhythm section is when you're listening to music like this. It's just, it carries most of the water, really.
Yeah, I'll get into it in a second, but for this song I chose, it's quite a slightly different song. I mean, the fact that all you've got is a rhythm section, all of the melody comes from the vocals. That's it.
Yeah.
And for myself and a lot of people in this country, melody is king. There's not many songs which are like this. They're of that ilk, but the way this is put together, I thought was just really cool and interesting. So they are a British band, Cymande, formed in 1971 from London. The band's name derives from a calypso word for dove, which symbolizes peace and love, and a million posters with Picasso on it. So the membership derives from the Afro-Caribbean diaspora community in London. Cymande were noted for their eclectic mix of funk, soul, reggae, rock, African music, calypso, and jazz, which they called Naya rock. Now, it's really tough trying to pin down who was in the band, where, and when, but this is my best guess for this. And there's another half dozen to a dozen that may have played on this record, but thankfully there weren't so many instruments on this. So Ray King, vocals, percussion. I'm pretty sure he had a hand. Steve Scipio, bass. Patrick Patterson, guitar. Derek Gibbs, saxophone. Pablo Gonzalez, congas. Sam Kelly, drums. Joey D, vocals, percussion. Peter Serio, saxophone. And Mike Bambi Rose, woodwinds and percussion. So that's for the album this came off, not this particular song. No chance of finding out how. So the band, as I say, formed in 71. They released 3 albums. They had some success in the US. They charted in the Billboard charts, both with singles and with albums, in the upper echelons, but still. So they toured America, and they end up at various points supporting Al Green and Ramsey Lewis. And in 1973, they were the first British band to headline at the famous Apollo Theatre in Harlem, New York, which is iconic. They also appeared on the TV show Soul Train, another iconic venue for African American music. So Cymande seemed to be heading towards stardom, but instead it turned out as we got a guy in this country called Craig Charles. He started off as a poet and stand-up, became an actor. He's also now a DJ. He's got a vast knowledge of black music. He said he called them the British black supergroup that never happened. So nothing changed on their return to England. This is really interesting, actually, a little sort of snippet of insight of what's going on in England.
Pardon me, just for the sake of clarification, that never happened. Does that mean that never really hit the level of popularity that he had assumed that they would or felt that they should have? Okay, got you.
Yeah.
All right.
To a degree. So yeah, it's a real insight. So they could only book small venues. They'd just been playing the Apollo Theatre in Harlem.
I know, that's all.
Come back here. The music was mostly locked out of television and radio, and any success was under the radar. Their roots and their families were in South London, so moving to the US was not really an option. So after 4 years of constant touring and 3 albums, they took what they considered to be a temporary break, which lasted more or less 40 years. And there's a little insight from a website, which I didn't write down which one it was. I apologize for this. But I'm talking about it and interviewing Craig Charles, and they said racism manifested differently in the UK. Remember, we're talking about mid-70s here. So less institutionalized, but also less censored in many ways, part of the civil discourse in ways it had never been in the US. And the scars of slavery were, to some, further in the past and geographically displaced to the colonies. So we're talking about slavery in the 1800s and almost from there. So it's easier to sort of push it back and out of your mind. But racism was equally prevalent, structural, and debilitating in the UK, including in the music business. Craig Charles remembers, we were importing Black American groups all the time, but we weren't embracing Black British talent. We weren't allowed in, to be honest. And he makes a note of this. It's worth noting. It's quite amazing that there was such a lack of British-born Black musical talent, which didn't really emerge until the sort of reggae surge following punk that sort of went hand in hand with that, sort of after 76, 77, Still Pulse, etc. And then the multiracial bands of like the Two Tone and the Ska revival at the end of the 70s, like the Specials. Selector and Beat, etc. So it's incredible, really. This track is the opener for that 3rd album, Promised Heights. It's there. Just as a massive, so I've got all 3 albums, and you saw the thumbnail, obviously.
Yeah.
But the artwork is equally great, particularly the 1st album. Let me see.
Nice.
It's great. That is what you expect.
It's almost like the top of a totem pole you would see in like indigenous people of the Pacific Northwest here in the States with the totems and all that.
Hold that thought. 2nd album. I mean, this is terrible to show it this way, but there you go. There's the fellas there.
Nice.
Groovy. Yeah, really cool. So nice really good albums. So after they disbanded in 74, they had actually recorded enough for a 4th album, but it wasn't released until 1981. I don't know if the fellas even got any money out of it, but I haven't got that one. Okay, lyrics. as you say, this sort of group chanting that's almost ceremonial. A lot of it repeats. So, Lord, love of the gates of Zion, holding down the dwelling of Jacob. Lord, love the gates of Zion, hold down, etc. Right, and then he goes into the verse. This day, man at its foundation brings truth to the nation, saying they should respect different colors. In life, we all have our reasons that change like the seasons. Winter clothes leave the spring many flowers.
Mhm.
Look down at thing that is glowing, the hatred that is showing. Knowing love gets weaker by the hour. And there's that sort of chorus. Secrets of life I man bring. Blessings of love I man give. Bringing you truth, well man live. Before your life goes, I want you to know.
So that's like that call and response type portion.
Yes.
Right? That back. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I want you to know. Lord, love the gates of Zion, hold down the dwellings of Jacob. Lord, love, etc., etc. And then back into the next verse. So strong, that passion within man that says we can go on, where all that be there, we know lies before us. Man cares at what he believes in, is all he's defending. No thought, not seeing where it leads him. Look down at pain that is growing, hatred that is showing, knowing love gets weaker by the hour. Secrets of life I man bring, blessings of love I man give, bringing you truth, well man live, before your life goes, I want you to know. Lord, love of the gates of Zion, hold down the dwelling of Jacob, and that just repeats until it fades out. So yeah, really cool song, and it's simple. It's just like, if you don't do something, then hatred will win out.
Yeah.
And I say love grows weaker all the time by doing nothing. So live your life, be cool.
Yeah. Be cool, man.
Really, I say, yeah. Hey, like Fonzie said, be cool. So here's where it gets quite interesting. So their music was rediscovered by the emerging hip hop scene in the 80s. And it was firstly used as breakbeats by DJ Kool Herc and Grandmaster Flash.
Nice.
Mighty fine dude. By the late 80s, they were being sampled regularly, and then into the 90s by rap artists such as De La Soul on their 3 Foot High and Rising album, KLF, MC Solar, the French hip hop artist, Heavy D, Wu-Tang Clan, Gangstar, Queen Latifah, and many others.
The thing there is I realize I've probably heard their music sampled plenty of times and I had no idea that what I was listening to.
I was going to say at the start, oh, you think you've never heard of them? I absolutely guarantee you have. Yeah. You just didn't know it. So quite nice because an unauthorized sample of Dove, one of their songs, was used by the Fugees, and it resulted in a lovely, lucrative copyright infringement settlement for the band. Ooh. So they got the greenbacks.
Good for them.
Additional recognition appeared in 1994 when Spike Lee used their song "Bruh" in his film Crooklyn. It's all kudos. So, sort of, you get this sort of rolling ball of momentum, and they reformed with most of the original members for a one-off show in 2006. That seemed to go well. So, quick as a flash. 6 years later, they reformed again in 2012.
Nice.
And they then, again, super quick. And 3 years later, they released A Simple Act of Fate, the band's first new album in 41 years. Now, in 2022, there was a documentary film about their story released, and it was called Getting It Back, The Story of Cymande, which was later released this year in February, a much wider cinema release. The doc cases the significance of this band whose music inspired so much creation. And that includes, in the documentary, they've noted everything from psychedelic soul dub of Houston's crew in, the endlessly extended breaks of early disco and proto hip hop, the alternative hip hop of De La Soul and Fugees, as mentioned before, the French rap of MC Solo, as I said, indie rock of Jim James and My Morning Jacket, I've quoted them as well, and finally to electronic dance music from house and jungle to drum and bass. A lot of it all comes from that stuff. Pop Matters website wrote, Cymande are one of, if not the most sampled British music artists of all time. according to the band members, they only learned about this phenomenon in retrospect from their children. Hey, Dad, listen, this is one of yours.
Yeah. Meanwhile, they're just hearing like all the dollar signs fleeting away from them.
So here's the funny bit. So they report not being appreciative of the exposure from the sampling. I'm not overly worried about the copyright issue. However, Scipio and Patterson became practicing lawyers after the band split in the mid-70s, and they seem to have reached a sort of settlement of some kind with some of the more successful bands and DJs paying them homage. So they got paid.
Yeah.
I think they've moved back to the Caribbean as well.
They don't just want to get paid in homage, though. You know what I mean?
Right.
At some point, you need to take care of your stuff.
So we sampled this band. Oh, it'll be all right. Oh,
Yeah.
two of them are lawyers now.
Oh, shit. That's great.
So there you go. That's Cymande. Yeah. And they're like hugely creative. And this lovely, they're a really important British band in terms of British black music and that mixture as well. It was happening across the States, but certainly wasn't happening here. So, really sort of trailblazing as well for these shores. So,
yeah, that's
cool.
Great. Good. I'd love to hear other than, because you would describe them as like, STUVXYZ as far as all the different genres they tap into, but I really only caught a couple in this. Like to hear them lean a little bit more into that funk aspect or the rock aspect or some other stuff, just to hear what else they're capable. I'd love to hear more stuff like this as well, but it's just cool that that's how wide of a net that they cast with their sort of their sound.
Yeah, there's one song on this album, I think it's called Brothers on the Slide, which the breakbeats from it are sampled in over 160 different songs. I've used that. It's really popular. And you just hear it straight away. But the problem is now when you listen to that, all you hear is the breakbeats. So there's other stuff which is a bit more sort of jazzy or funky that's really, really cool. But yeah, I'll slip you. See how this goes. All right, I'll wrap things up. Folks out there, please let us know what you think of this. If you like this, do hit the like button and drop some comments. Some of you probably know a bit more about Cymande than I do, but tell us what you think of this song, the band, the album, or the other sort of notable songs of theirs that they had. We'd love to hear from you, and really makes our day reading all your comments. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. And please help build this channel. We really appreciate everyone that does. We're moving on up, as them people would say. Why do I keep quoting them people? And and it was them people. Yeah, it was. We're moving on up. So as Yaz would say, the only way is up. That's it. Get a different quote in. And we really appreciate everyone that helps us along the way as well. Don't forget it. Right. That being said, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see all of you on the next episode of the Audiophiles.
See you later, guys.